The courtroom fell silent as Judge Hamilton dismissed Maya Johnson's testimony with a contemptuous wave. "We don't have time for the ramblings of street people," he declared. Officer Blake Wilson nudged Sergeant Thompson, both snickering at her. Tattered clothes. Maya's shoulders slumped in apparent defeat until she caught the eye of someone seated in the back row. Her fingers discreetly slipped inside her ragged coat, revealing the gleaming FBI badge hidden within. The judge's face transformed from disdain to shock as realization dawned. The officer's laughter died instantly as the power in the room dramatically shifted. How could these law enforcement officials have so catastrophically misjudged the woman they'd been tormenting for months? If you believe in justice prevailing against all odds, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. If you stand for accountability in our justice system, this story will show exactly why your support matters. Subscribe now, because tomorrow's episode about police corruption in small town America is one you definitely don't want to miss. 6 months earlier, FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. buzzed with activity as Special Agent Maya Johnson strode through the security checkpoint. At 38, Maya had built an impeccable 15-year career with the Bureau. Her tall frame carried the confidence of someone who had broken barriers as one of the few black female agents to reach her position. The numerous commendations decorating her personnel file spoke of her exceptional undercover work in organized crime and human trafficking cases. Director Marcus Collins waited in the secure briefing room, his face grave as she entered. "Agent Johnson, thank you for coming on such short notice," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. The room's other occupants, Deputy Director Harrington and Special Agent Tamara Ward from Internal Affairs, nodded in greeting. "We have a situation in Westridge County that requires your particular expertise," Director Collins began, sliding a thick folder across the table. "The local police department has been under our radar for 3 years now. We have reason to believe they're systematically targeting black citizens with false arrests, evidence planting, and excessive force." Maya opened the folder, her expression hardening as she reviewed the statistics. Arrest rates for black citizens were 6 times higher than for white residents, despite making up only 20% of the county population. Use of force incidents showed even more disturbing disparities. "We've tried conventional investigations," Agent Ward added. 2 agents were sent in officially. One was found with planted drugs in his vehicle and discredited. The other simply disappeared. His body was found in the river 3 months later, ruled as an accidental drowning despite signs of trauma. Director Collins leaned forward. "We believe the corruption goes beyond the police department. The DA's office, several judges, possibly even staff in the mayor's office appear compromised. We need someone to go in completely under the radar." "You want me to go undercover?" Maya stated, already processing the implications. "Not just undercover, deep cover," the director confirmed. "You would be completely off-grid. Minimal contact with handlers, no backup readily available. We are talking about becoming invisible to the system." "What's the cover?" Maya asked, studying the photographs of Westridge County. "A homeless woman," Agent Ward replied. "It offers the perfect vantage point. Homeless people are simultaneously hyper-visible to law enforcement, yet invisible to society. You'll be able to observe police interactions across the city without raising suspicion." Maya nodded slowly. It made tactical sense, but the personal cost would be enormous. "Timeline? 6 months minimum, possibly longer if needed to gather conclusive evidence," Director Collins said. "I won't sugarcoat this, Maya. This assignment could derail your career if things go wrong. Even if everything goes right, it will be physically and emotionally grueling." Maya turned to a page showing mugshots of 8 black men, all arrested by the same officers, all with nearly identical charges. "And these men? All serving 5 to 15 years, all maintain their innocence, all arrested by officers from the same precinct with the same pattern of evidence." A memory flashed in Maya's mind. Her younger brother Jamal's face pressed against prison glass during visitation, convicted of a crime she knew he didn't commit. The system had failed him just as it was failing these men. "I'll do it," she said without hesitation. Director Collins studied her face. Take 24 hours to consider. This isn't a standard assignment. I don't need 24 hours, Maya replied firmly. When do I start? The next 3 weeks passed in intense preparation. Maya underwent a dramatic physical transformation. Her athletic build hidden beneath baggy clothes, her skin deliberately neglected, her hair styled to appear unwashed and unkempt. She crafted a detailed backstory for her homeless persona, memorized the streets and shelters of Westridge County, and practiced survival techniques. The technical team equipped her with innovative micro-cameras disguised as buttons and a hidden audio recorder built into a seemingly worthless pendant. Each device could operate for weeks on a single charge and contained encrypted storage. On her final night at home, Maya looked around her apartment, knowing it would be months before she returned. She picked up a photo of herself with Jamal taken before his arrest. "This one's for you," she whispered, placing the photo in a lockbox with her badge, gun, and official identification. At dawn, Maya Johnson disappeared from the system. In her place emerged a shadow, a woman without a home, without a name in official records, but with a mission to expose corruption that had destroyed countless lives. The January wind cut through Maya's layers of clothing as she stepped off the Greyhound bus in downtown Westridge County. She had deliberately arrived with the winter storm, when homeless shelters would be overcrowded and police interactions with street people would be at their peak. Her transformation was complete. FBI agent Maya Johnson had vanished, replaced by a nameless woman in tattered clothes, carrying only a small backpack of belongings. She shuffled away from the bus station, her practiced gait suggesting someone accustomed to long hours on her feet. The wealthy downtown district of Westridge presented a stark contrast. Gleaming office buildings and upscale shops alongside growing encampments of homeless individuals huddled in doorways and beneath overpasses. Maya found a relatively sheltered spot between two buildings and settled in for the night. Cardboard beneath her as minimal insulation from the freezing concrete. The temperature dropped to 20 degrees as darkness fell. Despite her FBI cold weather training, the bitter chill penetrated to her bones. How did people survive like this? Night after night, she wondered, gaining immediate respect for those she was pretending to join. Shortly after midnight, a police cruiser rolled to a stop nearby. Officers Burns and Mitchell emerged, flashlights sweeping across the alleyway. "Wake up, city beautification sweep," Officer Burns shouted, kicking at the cardboard shelters where several homeless people slept. Maya blinked awake, deliberately, disoriented as Officer Mitchell approached. "Let's go, lady, can't sleep here." "Please," Maya mumbled. The shelter was full, nowhere else to go. Mitchell examined her backpack without permission. "What's this?" he asked, removing her spare clothes and the small notebook she'd brought. "Just my things," Maya protested weakly. "Looks like trash to me," Burns interjected, taking the backpack and dumping its contents into a nearby garbage bin. "City ordinance says no personal items blocking public walkways." Maya's hidden cameras captured everything as the officers continued down the alley, confiscating belongings from every homeless person they encountered. From her position, she witnessed them pocket several items of apparent value from an elderly man's cart. A young black man spoke up. "That's all I own, officer. My medication's in there." Officer Burns immediately grabbed him, slamming him against the wall. "Resisting officers during a city cleanup, that's a crime." The officers handcuffed him roughly despite no resistance. Maya stepped forward instinctively. He wasn't doing anything wrong. Both officers turned toward her. Burns's hand moved to his weapon. "You want to join him? One more word, and you're both going to jail." Maya backed away, forced to watch as they took the young man away on fabricated charges. Her first night had already yielded evidence of misconduct, but at what cost to that innocent man? The following days established a grim pattern. Maya wandered the streets during daylight, documenting police interactions with homeless individuals and minorities. The racial disparity was immediately obvious. White homeless people received warnings, while black and brown individuals received citations or arrests for identical behaviors. At a small encampment beneath the highway, Maya met Walter Jackson, a 67-year-old Vietnam veteran who had been living on Westridge streets for over a decade. "You're new," he observed, sharing his fire for warmth. "Word of advice, Stay away from the North Precinct officers. They're the worst. Southside's corrupt too, but they mostly want bribes. Northside enjoys the hurt they cause. Through Walter, Maya met Keisha, a 26-year-old mother recently evicted after losing her job. "I'm not supposed to be here," Keisha confided, showing a photo of her 5-year-old daughter who was staying with relatives. "I've got 3 job interviews next week. Just need to survive until then." Through these connections, Maya began mapping the corrupt system. She learned which officers planted drugs, which judges never ruled in favor of black defendants, which corners were used for unlawful searches. Her cameras documented dozens of constitutional violations daily. The personal toll mounted quickly. Maya was denied service at restaurants, followed suspiciously in stores, and regularly called racial slurs by passers-by. The constant exposure to the elements left her with a persistent cough. Most challenging was the psychological impact. Being treated as invisible or subhuman hour after hour eroded even her trained mind. On her 14th night, while sheltering in a church doorway, Maya witnessed Officers Wilson and Thompson stop a black teenager walking home from his after-school job. From her vantage point, her camera clearly recorded Officer Wilson placing a small bag in the boy's backpack before discovering it during their search. The teenager's desperate pleas of innocence were met with laughter as they handcuffed him. "What would you do if you witnessed such a blatant abuse of power right before your eyes? Would you risk your own safety to intervene, or would you remain hidden to document the evidence?" Comment number 1 if you believe Maya should prioritize gathering evidence to bring down the entire corrupt system. Or number 2, if you think she should intervene to save this innocent teenager right now. We all want justice, but at what cost? If you believe in accountability for those who abuse power, hit that subscribe button now. And ask yourself, how far would you go to expose corruption when the very people meant to uphold the law are breaking it with impunity? After 3 weeks on Westridge streets, Maya established a daily routine carefully designed to maximize her intelligence gathering. Mornings found her near the courthouse, afternoons around different police precincts, and evenings in areas where patrol officers frequently harassed homeless individuals. Every interaction was meticulously documented through her hidden devices. Her breakthrough came unexpectedly when she helped Andre Williams, the courthouse janitor, retrieve scattered papers during a particularly windy afternoon. Andre, a middle-aged, black man with kind eyes and a perpetual limp from a workplace injury, was grateful for the assistance. "You shouldn't be out in this weather," he said, noting Maya's thin jacket. "Building's warm inside if you need to rest. I start my shift at 4. Side doors unlocked for 20 minutes while I bring in supplies." The invitation provided Maya with precious access to the courthouse after hours. While Andre cleaned the main areas, Maya could explore record rooms. Gathering evidence of case tampering and discriminatory patterns in sentencing, she discovered Judge Hamilton sentenced black defendants to terms averaging 48% longer than white defendants for identical crimes. Through careful observation, Maya identified the most corrupt officers in the department. Officers Wilson and Thompson from the North Precinct were notorious for their brutality, while Captain James Richardson appeared to orchestrate the department's most systematic abuses. One evening, Maya captured damning footage. Hidden in the shadows of an alleyway, she recorded Officers Wilson and Thompson stopping a 17-year-old black student named Darnell. The teenager was returning from basketball practice when the officers claimed he matched the description of a suspect. "Nothing here," Thompson said after an initial search. Then, with a nod from Wilson, he turned off his body camera. "Technical malfunction." Wilson removed a small bag of white powder from his pocket. "Look what we have here," he said, planting it in Darnell's gym bag before discovering it. Another dealer off the streets. Maya's camera captured the entire sequence clearly. As she adjusted position to continue recording, a loose brick clattered to the ground. Officer Wilson spun around, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. "Someone's watching," he hissed. Moving toward Maya's position, she retreated deeper, into the shadows, heart pounding as the officers searched the area. Only the timely arrival of another homeless person diverting their attention allowed her escape. 2 days later, Maya made contact with her FBI handler at a predetermined location, a 24-hour laundromat 20 miles outside Westridge County. Special Agent Derek Martinez received her first batch of evidence, downloading the encrypted files, while Maya washed clothes to maintain her cover. "This is explosive material," Martinez said quietly. "The planting of evidence alone will bury those officers, but we need more on the higher-ups." Maya described her suspicions about Captain Richardson. "He's at every major arrest. The officers call him before processing any black suspect arrested on drug charges. I think he's orchestrating the department's targeting of minority neighborhoods." "What about outside the department?" Martinez asked. "The district attorney, Victoria Monroe, is involved somehow. Every case with planted evidence goes through her personally, even misdemeanors that would normally be handled by assistant DAs. Their meeting ended abruptly when Maya spotted Officer Mitchell entering the laundromat. She slipped out the back, while Martinez created a distraction, but the close call left her shaken. They were watching beyond Westridge boundaries. Back at the courthouse, Maya's careful relationship with Andre provided another breakthrough. While cleaning the basement archives, she discovered a hidden filing cabinet containing original evidence logs that contradicted official court records. The documents showed systematic alterations. Drugs amounts increased, witness statements changed, officer testimony modified after the fact. Maya photographed hundreds of pages, building an irrefutable case of evidence tampering. As she carefully replaced the files, a noise at the door froze her in place. Officer Mitchell stood in the doorway, studying her with narrowed eyes. "I've seen you before," he said slowly. Maya clutched her cleaning supplies, mind racing. I help Mr. Williams sometimes, for food money." Mitchell stepped closer. "No, not here. You were at that laundromat in Pineville." Before he could question further, Andre appeared behind him. "Officer, can I help you? This area's restricted without court personnel." Maya slipped past during the distraction, heart hammering in her chest. Her cover was beginning to unravel. She needed to accelerate her investigation before she was exposed. On a frigid February evening, 34 days into her undercover operation, Maya witnessed the incident that would change everything. Marcus Coleman, owner of a small black-owned grocery store, was closing his shop when 3 police cruisers surrounded him in the parking lot. From her vantage point across the street, Maya watched in horror as officers Wilson, Thompson, and 4 others approached, with weapons drawn. "On the ground! Now!" Officer Wilson shouted, though Coleman was clearly complying, hands raised. "I'm the owner," Coleman explained calmly. "Just locking up for the night." Officer Thompson grabbed Coleman, throwing him against the patrol car with unnecessary force. "Shut your mouth. We got reports of drug dealing from this location." "That's impossible," Coleman protested. "I've run this store for 20 years. Check my ID." What happened next made Maya physically ill. All 6 officers participated in a brutal assault, punching, kicking, and striking Coleman with batons as his pleas for mercy went ignored. When they finally stopped, the respected business owner lay bloodied and unmoving on the cold pavement. Maya couldn't remain hidden. FBI mission or not, a man might die without intervention. She stepped from the shadows, camera recording. "Stop! He needs medical attention." The officers spun toward her. "Another one," Officer Wilson sneered. "Arrest her too." Maya turned to run but was tackled from behind. A knee pressed into her neck as handcuffs bit into her wrists. Officer Thompson's face appeared above her, recognition dawning. "This is the one who's been watching us, the homeless woman from the alley." The officers threw Maya into the back of a patrol car, ignoring her requests for legal representation. At the station, they processed her without reading her rights or allowing a phone call. The booking officer deliberately misplaced her paperwork, ensuring she would disappear into the system over the weekend. The beating came in a windowless interrogation room. Officer Wilson circled her like a predator. "No cameras here, no witnesses, just us and all the time in the world." Maya endured the assault without revealing her identity, knowing it would endanger the entire operation and potentially her life if corrupt higher-ups were alerted. They alternated between physical intimidation and questions about why she had been spying on police, just in the wrong place, she maintained through bloodied lips. After 3 hours, Captain James Richardson entered the room. Tall and imposing in his perfectly pressed uniform, he studied Maya with cold calculation. "Leave us," he instructed the officers. Once alone, Richardson sat across from Maya. "You're not what you appear to be," he said quietly. "Homeless people mind their business. They don't interfere with police. They don't show up at multiple incident." "Scenes, who are you working for? A lawyer? Internal affairs?" Maya maintained her cover. "Nobody. I just couldn't watch you people hurt that man." Richardson smiled without warmth. "We'll see how long that story holds." He stood to leave. "Charge her with assault on an officer, resisting arrest, and obstruction of justice. No bail hearing. Until Monday." As they led Maya to a holding cell, she overheard Officers Wilson and Thompson discussing her in low voices. "She's seen too much," Wilson muttered. "Richardson wants her handled." "Like the last one?" Thompson asked. "Exactly like the last one." The processing officer deliberately entered Maya's information incorrectly, listing her as Jane Doe, with no record of her arrest time or charges. She was effectively being erased from the system, the first step in making someone disappear permanently. In the overcrowded holding cell, Maya collapsed onto the only available space on the floor. Her ribs throbbed from the beating, and she had tasted blood in her mouth. A young woman with tired eyes offered her a sip from a water bottle. "I'm Tanya," she said quietly. "First time inside?" Maya nodded, assessing whether this might be another test. "Word of advice," Tanya continued. "Whatever they say you did, take the plea deal. Especially if Wilson and Thompson arrested you. Nobody wins against them." "You know those officers?" Maya asked carefully. Tanya glanced around before leaning closer. "They arrested my brother last year, planted enough drugs to charge him with intent to distribute. Then they offered him a deal, become an informant against his friends or go away for 15 years. What happened? He refused. 2 days later they found more drugs in his cell. Now he's serving 20 years instead." Tanya wiped away a tear. "But that's not even the worst part. Those officers run a blackmail operation. They plant evidence, then force people to pay to make charges disappear. Those who can't pay either go to prison or become informants." Maya's mind raced. This was exactly the kind of information she needed. A systematic criminal operation run by officers. "How do you know all this?" "My cousin works as a file clerk for a defense attorney. She's seen the pattern in dozens of cases. It goes high. Up to. Rumor is the DA and even some judges get cuts from the extortion money." Before Maya could learn more, guards arrived for the night count. As they called names, Maya noted that hers wasn't among them. Further confirmation that they were deliberately keeping her off official records. Can you imagine being beaten and deliberately lost in the system by the very people sworn to uphold the law? Leave a comment with number 1 if you think America's justice system needs urgent reform to prevent such abuses. Or comment number 2 if you believe these are just isolated incidents. This is happening in communities across the country. If you want to see justice served and corrupt systems exposed, subscribe to our channel now. The question remains, when those in power are corrupt, who can the innocent turn to for help? The Westridge County Detention Center resembled a warehouse more than a proper correctional facility. Built in the 1970s to hold 60 inmates, it now housed over 200, with 3 or 4 people crammed into cells designed for one. Maya was pushed into a cell already occupied by 2 women, one elderly, one barely out of her teens. "Fresh meat," a guard announced callously before slamming the door. The cell reeked of sewage and disinfectant. A single toilet without privacy stood in the corner, and 3 thin mattresses covered in suspicious stains were pressed against the walls. The overhead light flickered constantly, never fully darkening even during sleeping hours. "Welcome to hell," the younger woman said without looking up. "I'm Jasmine, that's Ms. Elaine." The elderly woman nodded slightly. Her breathing came in labored wheezes, her ankles swollen to twice their normal size. "She needs medical attention," Maya said, noticing the blue tinge to Ms. Elaine's lips. Jasmine laughed bitterly. "Been asking for 3 days. They don't care if we live or die in here." During processing, guards had confiscated all of Maya's possessions, including the hidden recording devices concealed in her clothing and pendants. The loss of those devices meant no more evidence gathering, but more importantly, no way to signal her FBI handlers about her detention. The first night passed in fitful sleep, interrupted hourly by screams, guards shouting, and the constant clanging of cell doors. By morning, Maya's body ached from the concrete floor. She had given her mattress to Miss Elaine, whose condition was deteriorating. Breakfast consisted of a grey porridge with the consistency of wet cement and water that tasted of rust. Maya forced herself to eat, knowing she would need strength for what lay ahead. In the communal shower area, Maya witnessed the full extent of the jail's horrors. Women with untreated infections, pregnant inmates denied prenatal care, and fresh bruises that clearly came from guard encounters rather than other inmates. She formed a protective alliance with 3 other women after preventing a guard from dragging away a young girl for what everyone knew would be sexual assault. "You're either brave or stupid," said a tall woman named Denise. "Nobody stands up to guard Peterson. He's connected." Through Denise and others, Maya learned that guard Ronald Peterson was the inside connection for the department's drug operation. He smuggled contraband into the jail and ensured that certain inmates received harsher treatment than others. "If the cops want you to disappear, Peterson makes it happen," Denise explained. "Inmate goes to shower, never comes back. Records show." They were released, but nobody ever sees them again. On her 3rd day, while lining up for lunch, Maya nearly collided with a corrections officer she recognized, Michael Dawson, who had attended the police academy alongside her 8 years earlier. She quickly lowered her gaze and turned away, but not before catching his puzzled expression. "Do I know you?" he asked, studying her face. "No, sir," Maya mumbled, shuffling forward in line. Later that day, she spotted Dawson watching her from across the common area, his brow furrowed in concentration. Her cover was unraveling thread by thread. The situation became even more dire when Maya developed a high fever after drinking contaminated water from a leaking pipe. The medical unit rejected her request for treatment, claiming she was faking for attention. For 3 days she battled chills and hallucinations, unable to keep food down. Her salvation came unexpectedly. A new inmate arrived, Dr. Letitia Williams, a former emergency physician arrested for prescription fraud after refusing to falsify medical records for the police department. Seeing Maya's condition, Dr. Williams immediately began improvising treatment using the limited resources available. "You have bacterial infection, possibly E. coli," she explained, fashioning a cold compress from a torn shirt. "Without antibiotics, all we can do is manage symptoms and hope your immune system fights it off." Between fever spikes, Maya learned Dr. Williams' story. She had worked at Westridge General Hospital until refusing to cover up injuries sustained by a suspect in police custody. Within weeks, pharmacy records were mysteriously altered to show she had written fraudulent prescriptions. "They come after anyone who challenges them," Dr. Williams explained. "Judge, doctor, lawyer, doesn't matter. Cross them once and they destroy your life." As Maya's condition stabilized, she shared limited details of her own situation. "I've seen enough to put half the department away for decades, but no way to get the evidence out." Dr. Williams leaned closer. "Maybe there is. My hearing is tomorrow. If I can get a message to my attorney." They began planning a jailbreak of information, rather than people, a detailed account of everything Maya had witnessed, to be smuggled out through Dr. Williams' lawyer. However, the morning before the planned exchange, guards announced that Maya's court appearance had been unexpectedly moved up. "Johnson, court transport in 15 minutes. Maya exchanged a look of alarm with Dr. Williams. The accelerated timeline suggested someone had made the connection between the homeless woman and the evidence being gathered against the department. Her time was running out. The courtroom felt cavernous as Maya was led in, hands and feet shackled. Her unwashed hair and bruised face presented exactly the image the system wanted, just another criminal unworthy of dignity or consideration. Judge Hamilton peered down from his bench with thinly veiled disgust, while the gallery filled predominantly with uniformed officers, creating an intimidating wall of blue. Case number 47291, State versus Jane Doe, charges of assaulting an officer, Resisting arrest and obstruction of justice, the clerk announced. Maya scanned the courtroom carefully. In the back row, partially obscured by a pillar, sat a man she recognized as her FBI handler's assistant. The bureau knew she had been arrested. A rumpled man with a stained tie approached. "Samuel Green, public defender," he muttered without making eye contact. "Judge wants to get through this quickly. Just plead guilty, and we'll request leniency based on mental health issues." "I want to plead not guilty," Maya stated firmly. "And I want a proper attorney," Green scoffed. "With what money? Listen, these officers have body cam footage of you attacking them. Fight this and you're looking at 7 to 10 years minimum." Maya recognized the tactic. The officers had no such footage, but most defendants would have no way of knowing that. "I still want to plead not guilty." Green stepped back with thinly disguised irritation. "Your funeral." The surprise came when District Attorney Victoria Munro herself entered and took the prosecutor's position. A woman with sharp features and an immaculate grey suit, Munro typically handled major felonies and high-profile cases, not low-level arrests of homeless people. "Your Honor," Munro began, "the state considers this defendant a particular danger to the community. She has interfered with multiple police operations and demonstrated violent tendencies toward law enforcement." Judge Hamilton nodded. "What does the state request for bail?" Given the serious nature of the charges and the defendant's lack of fixed address or community ties, we request remand without bail. Maya's public defender made no objection, merely shuffling papers and checking his watch. The fix was clearly in. "I have a right to speak, Your Honor," Maya said firmly. Judge Hamilton's gavel struck sharply. "You'll speak when I tell you to speak." "The Constitution says I have the right to address the court," Maya persisted. The judge's face reddened. "One more word and I'll hold you in contempt." Munro smiled slightly. "Your Honor, perhaps we should let the defendant speak. It will save time on appeals." The condescension was clear. No appeal would succeed in this court system anyway. "You have 30 seconds, Judge Hamilton conceded. Maya stood straight despite her shackles. "I witnessed Officers Wilson and Thompson brutally assaulting a business owner without provocation. When I attempted to help the victim, I was arrested. At no point did I assault any officer. Furthermore, I was held for over 24 hours without being Mirandized, denied medical attention, and my arrest was deliberately mislogged to keep me off the books." Officers in the gallery stirred angrily. Judge Hamilton banged his gavel again. "Enough fantasies. Bail is set at $250,000. The amount was absurd, ensuring Maya would remain incarcerated. As guards moved to remove her, Maya noticed a disturbing interaction. D.A. Munro leaned close to Captain Richardson, whispering urgently while both glanced in her direction. The captain nodded almost imperceptibly before touching his phone. Being led back through the courthouse corridors, Maya caught fragments of their continued conversation. "Is that becoming a problem? Take care of it tonight. No traces this time." The implication was clear. Maya had been marked for elimination. The corrupt system had identified her as a threat and was moving to silence her permanently. As the transport van doors closed, locking her inside, Maya caught a final glimpse of her FBI contact making a phone call, his expression grave. "Do you believe our justice system protects the innocent, or does it sometimes shield the corrupt? Comment number 1 if you think good police officers should do more to expose corruption in their departments. Or number 2, if you believe the blue wall of silence protects necessary police solidarity. Would you have the courage to stand alone against a corrupt system when everyone seems to be working against you? If you value accountability in our justice system, hit that subscribe button now. And ask yourself, if both the police and courts are corrupt, where can ordinary citizens turn for justice? Will Maya find the ally she desperately needs before it's too late? Maya's return to jail carried an atmosphere of menace. Guards smirked knowingly as she was processed back into the general population. One whispered to another, "Midnight Special," with a meaningful glance in her direction. Whatever midnight special meant, Maya knew she likely wouldn't survive to see morning if she remained in custody. Dr. Williams immediately noted the change. "Something's happened," she whispered when they were briefly alone in the common area. "They're planning something tonight," Maya confirmed. I need to contact someone outside. Before they could speak further, a guard approached. Johnson, visitor. Confused, Maya was led to the attorney visitation room. Waiting inside was a man she'd never seen before. Tall, black, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit. When the guard left, he spoke quickly. My name is Anthony Carter. I'm your new attorney. Don't react visibly to anything I say. We're being watched. Maya maintained a neutral expression, though her mind raced. I've been sent by mutual friends in Washington, Carter continued, opening his briefcase. Your situation has created significant concern. Inside the briefcase, he revealed a small device that swept for listening devices. When it indicated the room was clean, he spoke more freely. I'm FBI-affiliated counsel. Your handler's communications were compromised after your arrest. Director Collins sent me directly. How bad is it? Maya asked. Bad. They've identified you as a threat but don't yet know you're federal. That's the only reason you're still alive. The extraction team is prepared, but we need your evidence first. Maya explained about the recording devices confiscated during her arrest. Everything I gathered over 6 weeks is gone. Carter shook his head. Not gone. Just in police evidence lockup. We're working on that angle. But we need to get you out now. Richardson has ordered something called a midnight special. According to our sources, it's their code for prisoner elimination. Can you get me released? Maya asked. Already done. Anonymous donor posted your bail 10 minutes ago, but the moment you walk out, they'll be watching. We need to make them think you've escaped their surveillance on your own. Carter slipped her a small communication device, disguised as an asthma inhaler. This connects directly to our secure network. Use it when you're clear. When Maya emerged from jail 30 minutes later, she was already being followed. A black SUV with tinted windows idled across the street, and an unmarked police car pulled out behind her as she walked away. Instead of heading directly to the FBI safe house Carter had arranged, Maya deliberately moved toward the homeless encampment where she'd previously stayed. The police radio in the trailing car crackled. Target moving east on Willard Street. Appear to be heading to known homeless area. Copy, intercept team standing by. Maya ducked down an alley using the urban environment knowledge she'd gained over the past weeks. When she emerged on the parallel street, 2 patrol cars screeched to a halt in front of her. Going somewhere? Officer Wilson called, stepping out with his hand on his weapon. Maya ran. The officers pursued on foot, while patrol cars circled to cut off escape routes. For 15 harrowing minutes, she navigated the urban maze of Westridge, staying just ahead of her pursuers. When a patrol car nearly cornered her on Division Street, she scaled a fire escape to the rooftops. 4 officers followed, with Wilson shouting into his radio, "She's heading for the construction zone. All units converge." The high-speed pursuit culminated at the edge of an unfinished overpass. Maya stood at the precipice, officers approaching from all sides. "Nowhere left to run," Thompson called, weapon drawn. "Make it easy on yourself." Maya glanced down at the storm drain 20 feet below. Without hesitation, she jumped, disappearing into the drainage system that ran beneath the city. The officers fired several shots after her, but in the darkness they couldn't track her movement through the labyrinthine tunnels. For hours, Maya navigated the fetid underground system, finally emerging miles away near the river district. Only then did she use the communication device, contacting the extraction team. Eagle is free but compromised, requesting alternative rendezvous. Instead of directing her to the safe house, the voice instructed, "Proceed to Riverside Park, north entrance. Contact Zoe Williams, reporter, Daily Chronicle. Temporary secure asset until extraction." Maya found the reporter waiting on a park bench, pretending to work on her laptop. Zoe Williams was younger than Maya expected, maybe 30, with natural hair pulled back in a professional style and alert eyes that missed nothing. "The bird watches from the trees," Zoe said quietly, the agreed-upon code phrase. "But flies with the wind," Maya completed, taking a seat beside her. "My car's around the corner. FBI contact said you need a place to stay off the radar." "Why are you helping?" Maya asked as they walked casually toward the parking garage. "Because I've been investigating the Westridge Police Department for 3 years," Zoe replied. "I've documented 27 cases of evidence planting, 14 suspicious deaths in custody, and dozens of racially motivated false arrests. But I've never been able to prove the systematic nature of the corruption or connect it to higher officials. At Zoe's apartment, Maya finally showered and changed into clean clothes for the first time in weeks. Over a simple meal, they compared notes. Zoe's investigation had identified many of the same corrupt officers, but lacked the hard evidence to publish without risking devastating lawsuits. With your testimony and FBI backing, we could finally expose this whole operation, Zoe said, eyes bright with purpose. Maya was more cautious. My handlers want to extract me immediately. The operation is compromised. If you leave now, they'll destroy evidence and close ranks. You've seen how they operate. They'll pin everything on a few bad officers and the system will continue. Zoe pulled out a thick file. Look at these cases. 18 black men serving 10+ years on identical drug charges, all arrested by the same officers under Richardson's command. Maya examined the case files, recognizing the pattern she'd documented herself. What are you proposing? Let me publish what we have, anonymously, of course. Public pressure will prevent them from simply making evidence disappear. It buys time for the FBI to build their case properly. It was risky, but Maya couldn't disagree with the logic. I can share certain details, but I need to withhold key evidence for the federal case. They worked through the night, carefully crafting a story that would expose the department's corruption without compromising the larger investigation. By dawn, Zoe had a draft ready for her editor, a devastating exposé of systematic racism and corruption in the West Ridge Police Department, backed by dates, incident reports, and statistical analysis. This publishes tomorrow, Zoe said, hitting send on the email. The police scanner has been going crazy all night looking for you. Once this hits, you'll need to disappear completely. The story broke the following morning with the headline, Shadow Justice, Inside Westridge's Corrupt Police Empire. The article detailed dozens of cases of evidence planting, racial profiling, and brutality, all following the same pattern Maya had documented. While it didn't identify her as the source, it contained enough specific details that those involved would immediately suspect a high-level informant. The public reaction was immediate and fierce. Protesters gathered outside police headquarters. The mayor called for an independent investigation. National news picked up the story, focusing on the racial aspects of the systematic abuse. Captain Richardson and DA Monroe held an emergency press conference, denouncing the article as baseless, allegations and attack journalism. They projected confidence, but Maya noticed the tension in Richardson's jaw. The way Monroe's hands trembled slightly as she spoke. Then came the hammer blow. As Zoe and Maya watched the press conference from the apartment, Zoe's phone buzzed with a news alert. She paled as she read it. "They know," she whispered, turning the phone so Maya could see. The alert read, "Breaking. Sources claim homeless woman sought in connection with police investigation is actually federal agent. Westridge PD investigating possibility of rogue FBI operation." Somehow Maya's identity had been leaked. Within minutes the narrative shifted. Police spokespeople suggested Maya was a rogue agent with a personal vendetta acting without proper authorization. Doctored photos appeared online, purportedly showing Maya accepting bribes and falsifying evidence. That night, while Maya slept briefly, unknown assailants broke into Zoe's apartment. They escaped through the fire exit minutes before the intruders entered, leaving behind laptops and files that would have identified Maya's location. "They'll track us through my car," Zoe said as they fled on foot. "We need to separate. They'll focus on finding you." "I can't leave you unprotected," Maya objected. "You've seen what they do to witnesses." "I have other contacts," Zoe insisted. "People who can hide me, but you need to complete your mission. Without that evidence, this all falls apart, with helicopters searching overhead and patrol cars flooding the streets." They parted ways in an abandoned subway station, each heading in opposite directions into the uncertain night. The abandoned Westridge steel factory stood as a rusting monument to the city's industrial past. Its cavernous interior, littered with debris and old machinery, provided countless hiding places among the shadows. This was the emergency rendezvous, point Maya had arranged with her FBI handler, before everything went wrong. She arrived 2 hours early, carefully checking for surveillance before slipping through a broken window. The factory's basement level offered a defendable position with multiple exit routes, ideal for the planned extraction. Maya found a concealed spot overlooking the main entrance and settled in to wait, the communication device ready in her hand. At precisely midnight, the factory's side door opened. Special Agent Derek Martinez entered cautiously, weapon drawn, scanning the darkness. Maya was about to signal him when she noticed a reflection from the upper gantry, the unmistakable glint of a rifle scope. "Ambush!" she called out instead, diving from her position as gunfire erupted. Martinez took cover behind a concrete pillar as bullets ricocheted around them. Maya counted at least 3 separate firing positions. A coordinated tactical team had been waiting for them. "Exit route 4, Martinez shouted, referring to their prearranged contingency plan. They moved in tandem, providing covering fire as they retreated toward the loading docks. Maya felt a burning sensation as a bullet grazed her upper arm, tearing through her jacket. Martinez took a more direct hit to his leg, but continued moving, limping heavily. They burst through the loading dock doors into the rear alleyway. A police helicopter appeared overhead, its spotlight sweeping the area. Martinez's FBI extraction vehicle was blocked by 2 Westridge police cruisers. "Split up," Martinez ordered, pressing a USB drive into Maya's hand. "Secure server access. Everything you need is there." Before Maya could respond, a tactical team rounded the corner. Martinez pushed her toward a narrow passage between buildings. "Go! Complete the mission!" The last she saw of her handler, he was engaging the tactical team alone, buying her precious seconds to escape. Gunfire echoed behind her as Maya disappeared into the maze of alleys, the helicopter spotlight unable to penetrate the narrow passages. For hours, she moved through the city's forgotten spaces, drainage tunnels, abandoned buildings, railway, underpasses. The wound on her arm throbbed, leaving a trail of blood she continuously wiped away. By dawn, she had reached the industrial district on the city's east side, miles from the ambush site. The implications were clear. Their secure communications had been compromised at the highest level. Someone with access to FBI protocols had set up the ambush, which meant the corruption reached far beyond Westridge. Maya found temporary shelter in an abandoned storage unit, where she examined the USB drive Martinez had given her. It contained access credentials to a secure FBI server, where she could upload her evidence, bypassing the normal chain of command. But the nearest secure access point was the public library downtown, directly in the heart of enemy territory. As Maya considered her options, a troubling thought emerged. The tactical team had been waiting before they arrived. Someone had known about the meeting in advance, which suggested a traitor within her own operation. She mentally reviewed everyone with knowledge of her mission: Director Collins, Deputy Director Harrington, Agent Ward, her handler Martinez, and more recently Attorney Carter. Carter had appeared immediately after her court appearance, claiming to be sent by Director Collins. But what if that wasn't true? What if he was the leak, sent to track her movements and report back to Richardson? The betrayal theory gained strength when Maya accessed a public internet terminal at a 24-hour convenience store. Using encrypted channels, she checked news updates about Westridge. A local traffic report caught her attention. A tragic accident had claimed the life of Walter Jackson, the homeless veteran who had first helped Maya navigate Westridge's streets. The report described a pedestrian collision with a delivery truck, but Maya recognized the pattern: witnesses to police corruption meeting unfortunate accidents. They were eliminating everyone connected to her investigation, which meant Keisha and Dr. Williams would also be in danger. With her arm bandaged using supplies from the convenience store first aid kit, Maya returned to the streets, now hunting rather than hiding. She located Keisha at her sister's apartment, warning her of the danger. "They came asking questions yesterday," Keisha confirmed, fear evident in her eyes. "Men in suits claiming to be from social services, but with guns under their jackets. I hid in the bathroom." Despite the risk to herself, Keisha offered Maya shelter. "After everything you're doing to expose them, least I can do is give you a place to sleep. From this temporary safe haven, Maya used the library's public computer the following day, careful to disguise her appearance with clothes borrowed from Keisha. She accessed the secure FBI server using Martinez's credentials, discovering a disturbing connection. Assistant Director Lawrence Taylor had authorized an internal investigation into unauthorized operations in Westridge County, specifically targeting Maya as a rogue agent. Taylor's name appeared in multiple communications with Westridge officials, including meeting records with DA Monroe dating back 2 years. The corruption went higher than anyone had suspected, reaching into the upper echelons of the FBI itself. Maya knew she needed irrefutable evidence linking all the players. Using techniques that wouldn't trigger security alerts, she accessed Captain Richardson's personal records through backdoor channels in the police database. His home address appeared on screen, 1421 Oakwood Drive, an affluent neighborhood far from the communities his officers terrorized. That night, while Richardson attended a police charity gala, Maya broke into his home. The security system was sophisticated, but yielded to her FBI training. Inside his home office, she discovered a hidden safe behind a painting, a cliché that nonetheless protected Richardson's most damning secrets. The safe took longer to crack, but when it finally opened, Maya found the mother lode, ledgers detailing payoffs from drug seizures, lists of officers involved in the corruption scheme, blackmail material on judges and city officials, and most damning of all, records of meetings with Assistant Director Taylor regarding containment of federal oversight. Maya photographed everything with a disposable camera purchased for cash. As she carefully replaced the documents and closed the safe, headlights swept across the front windows. Richardson had returned unexpectedly early. Maya slipped into a walk-in closet seconds before Richardson entered the office. Through the slats in the door, she watched him check the safe, apparently sensing something amiss. For 30 agonizing minutes, she remained motionless as Richardson made phone calls, including one to DA Monroe discussing the FBI problem. "The woman knows too much," he said into the phone. "Taylor says we have 48 hours to clean house before Washington sends another team." When Richardson finally left the room, Maya escaped through a bathroom window, the precious camera secured inside her jacket. The evidence would destroy not only the Westridge corruption ring, but expose FBI complicity as well. Do you believe corruption can reach the highest levels of law enforcement? Or are these just fictional scenarios? Comment number 1 if you think oversight systems need major reform to prevent abuse of power. Or number 2, if you believe existing accountability measures are adequate. Have you ever witnessed injustice and felt powerless to stop it? If you believe every person deserves equal protection under the law regardless of race or economic status, hit that subscribe button now. And consider this: if those tasked with upholding justice become corrupt, is working outside the system sometimes the only way to restore true justice? Will Maya's evidence be enough to bring down not just corrupt local police, but the federal officials protecting them? The morning after infiltrating Richardson's home, Maya sought refuge in an abandoned apartment building in Westridge's east side. Her arm throbbed where the bullet had grazed her, and exhaustion clouded her thinking. She needed to process what she'd discovered and determine her next move. The evidence from Richardson's safe confirmed her worst suspicions. The corruption extended beyond local police into the highest ranks of the FBI. Assistant Director Lawrence Taylor wasn't just aware of the Westridge corruption, he was actively facilitating it, protecting the operation in exchange for what appeared to be substantial payments. Maya needed to contact someone she could trust, but her options were dwindling. With Martinez potentially captured or worse, and her secure communications compromised, traditional channels were too dangerous. She would need to improvise. At a corner store, Maya purchased a disposable phone with cash. From memory, she dialed a number few agents knew, Director Collins' private line reserved for extreme emergencies. The call went to voicemail. Maya left a coded message indicating compromised operations and high-level infiltration, then destroyed the phone. If Collins was still trustworthy, he would understand and respond through alternative channels. If he was compromised as well, she'd just exposed herself further. Maya retreated to her temporary hideout to rest and plan. Sleep came in fitful bursts, filled with nightmares of pursuing officers and betrayal. She awoke to distant sirens around midnight and instinctively reached for her weapon. A soft knock at the door froze her in place. She approached silently, gun ready. "It's me, Keisha," a voice whispered. Maya opened the door cautiously. Keisha stood there, her face streaked with tears. "They killed Walter," she said, voice breaking. "Made it look like an accident, but my cousin works at the hospital. Said Walter had bruises that couldn't have come from getting hit by a truck. They beat him first." Maya pulled her inside quickly. "I know, I'm sorry, you shouldn't be here. It's not safe." "Nowhere's safe," Keisha replied. "They came to my sister's place asking questions again. More aggressive this time. Said they'd take her kids into protective custody if she didn't tell them where to find me." Maya's mind raced. They were eliminating witnesses systematically. "Did anyone follow you here?" "I was careful. Took the route you showed me, through the construction site and drainage tunnel. Despite the precautions, Maya knew they couldn't stay long. Anyone connected to her was in danger. She gathered her few belongings. "We need to move, now." As they prepared to leave, a notification alert sounded from the burner laptop Maya had acquired. She'd set up monitoring on certain secure FBI channels using Martinez's credentials. The alert showed an incoming secure message on an emergency broadcast channel. The message read, "Sunbird, midnight, standard protocol, Director Collins." Sunbird was Maya's operative code name, unknown to Assistant Director Taylor. The message instructed her to make contact using their predetermined emergency protocol, an indication Collins had received her warning and was responding through channels Taylor couldn't monitor. "Change of plans," Maya told Keisha. "I need to make contact with my team outside normal channels. Can you get somewhere safe for a few days? Somewhere not connected to your family?" Keisha nodded. "My old college roommate lives in Millfield, about 40 miles north. No one knows we're still in touch." Maya gave Keisha half the cash she had left. "Go there now. Don't contact anyone until you hear from me or see news about arrests in Westridge." After Keisha departed, Maya prepared for the midnight meeting. The standard protocol meant the central bus terminal, Platform 3, midnight exactly. It was a protocol established for situations where all other communications might be compromised. The bus terminal was busy even at night, providing both cover and witnesses that would discourage direct action against her. Maya arrived 2 hours early, securing positions to observe all entrances. She identified 3 plainclothes officers among the travelers, but couldn't determine if they were there for her or routine patrol. At exactly midnight, a man in a maintenance uniform approached the bench where Maya sat disguised as a tired traveler. He didn't look at her as he emptied a nearby trash can. "Southwest Maintenance Corridor." "5 minutes," he said quietly before moving on. Maya waited, watching the plainclothes officers for any reaction. When none came, she made her way to the maintenance area using a service door. Inside, the dingy corridor lit by flickering fluorescent lights, she found not Director Collins but Agent Martinez, his leg bandaged but mobile. "You're alive," she said, relief washing over her. "Barely. They thought they'd killed me, but I played dead until I could escape." His expression darkened. "Maya, it's worse than we thought. The ambush was coordinated from inside the bureau. Taylor's been running interference, but he's not the only one." "I know. I found evidence in Richardson's house linking Taylor to both the police department and DA's office." She handed him the camera with the photos. "We need to get this to Collins. Directly." Martinez's face remained grim. "That's the problem. Collins was placed on administrative leave yesterday. Taylor's running the operation now, with authorization to use all necessary means to locate and detain you." The implications hit Maya like a physical blow. Without Collins, they had no high-level support within the Bureau. "We can't use official channels at all, then?" "Not if we want to live," Martinez confirmed. "I've contacted a few agents I trust absolutely, people who worked with Collins for decades. They're willing to form a shadow team, but we need to be careful. Taylor has surveillance on their homes and communications." As they discussed options, Maya's instincts flared. Something felt wrong about the situation. Martinez had appeared too conveniently, and his story didn't quite align with what she knew. "How did you contact these agents if Taylor has them under surveillance?" she asked casually. Martinez hesitated, just a fraction too long. "Predetermined. Emergency protocols like the one we used tonight. But those protocols would have been known to Taylor as Assistant Director of Operations," Maya noted, hand drifting toward her concealed weapon. The shift in Martinez's demeanor was subtle but unmistakable. His posture tensed slightly, eyes hardening. "You've become paranoid, Maya. Understandable after what you've been through, but you need to trust me." "I trusted Attorney Carter too," she replied. "But he wasn't sent by Collins, was he?" Martinez's expression confirmed her suspicion. "Carter played his role well, didn't he? Got you out of jail just so we could track you to your contacts." "We?" Martinez sighed. "You should have just gathered evidence and left, Maya. No one would have gotten hurt, but you had to dig deeper, had to find connections that weren't your concern." Maya's weapon was now pointed directly at Martinez. "You betrayed the Bureau, everything we stand for." "I chose the winning side," he replied coldly. "Do you have any idea how much money flows through operations like Westridge? Millions that never make it to evidence lockup. Taylor offered me a choice: join or be eliminated along with you." As he spoke, Maya noticed movement in her peripheral vision, armed men positioning themselves at both ends of the corridor. The entire meeting had been a trap. "You won't make it out of here," Martinez stated matter-of-factly. "Taylor's men have the building surrounded, but you can still save yourself. Give us the evidence, all of it, and you get a new identity, new life, and enough money to disappear comfortably." Maya appeared to consider the offer, lowering her weapon slightly. "And if I refuse?" "Then the rogue agent who tragically broke under pressure dies resisting arrest. Your reputation destroyed, your evidence discredited, your family left with nothing but shame." Maya nodded slowly. "I understand. Just answer one question first. Was it you who told them about Walter? About my homeless contacts?" The brief flash of guilt across Martinez's face was all the confirmation she needed. In one fluid motion, Maya dropped to the floor, simultaneously triggering the emergency sprinkler system with a shot to the ceiling sensor. Water cascaded down, creating instant confusion as alarms blared throughout the terminal. In the chaos, Maya disabled Martinez with a precise strike to his injured leg and escaped through a service duct she'd identified earlier. The pursuing tactical team, hampered by panicking civilians and limited visibility, lost her in the crowd evacuating the terminal. Hours later, sheltering in an abandoned church, Maya faced the devastating truth: she was truly alone. Her handler, her backup, even the leadership of the FBI had been corrupted or neutralized. The evidence she possessed made her the most hunted person in Westridge, with enemies in every law enforcement agency. She reviewed her dwindling options. Without official support, she needed to build a coalition from outside the system. People who had also suffered under Westridge's corrupt regime and had nothing left to lose. The Westridge Public Library provided anonymity among its many patrons. Maya, disguised in clothes from a thrift store and wearing reading glasses, used a computer terminal in the far corner to access secure FBI databases one last time before Martinez's credentials were revoked. Rather than trying to contact FBI headquarters directly, Maya implemented a different strategy. She identified agents who had previously investigated police corruption cases successfully and who had no connections to Assistant Director Taylor. Using an encrypted message system that bypassed normal FBI channels, she sent carefully worded alerts to 5 agents she believed might be trustworthy, including details only a legitimate agent would know. By midday, she had received 2 responses expressing willingness to help, though both agents emphasized they would need irrefutable evidence before acting against an assistant director. The seeds of her shadow network were planted. Maya's next stop was Westridge County Hospital. Dr. Letitia Williams had been released on bail pending trial and, according to hospital records, was volunteering at a free clinic in the predominantly Black Oak Park neighborhood. The clinic operated out of a church basement, providing basic medical care to those who couldn't afford hospital visits. Maya waited until evening when patient numbers dwindled before approaching the clinic. Dr. Williams was finishing paperwork when Maya slipped inside. "I was wondering when you'd show up," Dr. Williams said without looking up. "Police have been asking about you, not very subtly either." "I'm sorry to bring this to your door," Maya replied, "but I need your help." Dr. Williams finally met her gaze. "You're talking to someone facing 15 years for crimes I didn't commit. What more could they do to me?" "Kill you," Maya stated bluntly. "They've already eliminated one witness, a homeless veteran named Walter." The doctor's expression hardened. "I heard about that accident. Patient of mine came in last month with bronchitis." She closed the folder she'd been working on. "What do you need from me?" "Connections. People who've been wrongfully arrested or prosecuted. Victims of police brutality who survived. Former jurors who suspected evidence tampering but were overruled." Dr. Williams nodded slowly. "I know plenty who fit that description, but they're terrified. The system crushed them once already. Tell them I have evidence that could bring down the entire operation, not just a few officers, the entire corrupt network. But I need witnesses willing to testify when the time comes." By the end of the week, Maya had connected with 12 victims of Westridge's corrupt system. Each provided additional evidence, beatings that were never reported, evidence that appeared mysteriously during trials, judges who blocked legitimate testimony. Together they formed a comprehensive picture of systematic abuse, targeting primarily Black and Latino residents. Among her new allies was Marcus Coleman, the grocery store owner whose beating had prompted Maya's intervention and subsequent arrest. Still recovering from his injuries, Coleman provided security camera footage from his store that captured officers Wilson and Thompson planting evidence in his storeroom the day before his arrest. "They didn't know about the hidden camera," Coleman explained. "My cousin installed it after they tried the same thing last year." The breakthrough came when Maya reconnected with courthouse janitor Andre Williams. He had continued his late-night access to court records, compiling a database of suspicious cases that showed clear patterns of evidence manipulation. "Every case with identical charges goes through the same process," Andre explained, showing Maya his meticulous records. "Same officers make the arrest, same evidence technician processes the scene, same prosecutor handles the case regardless of normal rotation, and same judge presides despite court assignment systems." Together, they identified 47 cases following this exact pattern over 3 years. All defendants were Black or Latino, all evidence was processed by technician Gregory Palmer, all cases were prosecuted personally by DA Monroe, and all were presided over by one of 3 judges, including Judge Hamilton. Maya's network grew to include a courthouse clerk, 2 former jurors, a paralegal from the public defender's office, and even a rookie police officer who had witnessed evidence, planting but feared reporting it. Each provided pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, revealed the full scope of Westridge's corrupt empire. With Andre's help, Maya coordinated a daring operation. On a single day across Westridge County, her network of allies documented police misconduct simultaneously, recording traffic stops in different neighborhoods to prove racial profiling, photographing evidence being handled improperly, and documenting discrepancies in official reports compared to actual events. The evidence packet grew massive, financial records showing unexplained deposits in officers' accounts, documentation of seized property never entering evidence lockup, testimony from victims, and statistical analysis proving systematic discrimination. Maya organized everything meticulously, creating both digital and physical copies secured in multiple locations. The final piece came from an unexpected source. The paralegal, Jasmine Torres, discovered financial records showing regular payments, from a shell company linked to Captain Richardson to an offshore account belonging to federal judge William Cranston, the only federal judge with jurisdiction over Westridge County. This is why previous investigations failed, Maya realized. Any federal case would have gone through Cranston. He was their safety valve. With this critical information, Maya arranged a meeting with federal judge Rebecca Sharma from the neighboring district, a judge known for her strict ethical standards and independence. The meeting was set for the following morning at a location outside Richardson's influence. That evening, as Maya finalized preparations, Keisha called from her hiding place in Millfield. "Maya, they're arresting everyone," she said, panic evident in her voice. "It's all over the local news. Mass arrests for conspiracy and obstruction. They're taking everyone connected to the investigation." Maya quickly checked online news sources. The headlines confirmed her worst fears. Westridge police conduct raids in connection with federal investigation. 43 arrested for conspiracy to obstruct justice. De Monroe. Organized attempt to undermine law enforcement. The names in the articles included nearly everyone in Maya's network: Dr. Williams, Marcus Coleman, Andre Williams, and others. They had arrested her entire coalition of allies in a single coordinated sweep. The message was clear. Richardson and his co-conspirators were eliminating all potential witnesses and destroying Maya's support structure. They knew she had prepared evidence for delivery to Judge Sharma and were removing everyone who could corroborate her claims. Maya's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from one of the FBI agents she'd contacted. Taylor authorized the arrests. Claims national security implications. Judge Cranston signed all warrants. Everyone being held incommunicado under terrorism provisions. They had used the system itself as a weapon against her allies, manipulating anti-terrorism laws to silence witnesses to their corruption. With her network neutralized and time running out before her meeting with Judge Sharma, Maya faced the most difficult decision of her operation. She could flee, take her evidence, and escape Westridge, hoping to find allies elsewhere. Or she could take an enormous risk, placing herself directly in the hands of the very people trying to kill her, in a final desperate gambit to bring down the entire corrupt system. After hours of consideration, Maya made her choice. It was time to spring, a trap of her own. The Westridge County Courthouse buzzed with activity as Maya Johnson, looking more disheveled and defeated than ever in her homeless disguise, was led into Courtroom 3 by officers Wilson and Thompson. Word had spread quickly about the mysterious, homeless woman who had supposedly orchestrated a conspiracy against the police department, and spectators packed the gallery. Captain Richardson sat confidently behind the prosecution table, occasionally exchanging knowing glances with D.A. Monroe. In the judge's seat, Hamilton surveyed the scene with barely concealed satisfaction. The trap had worked perfectly. Their primary threat had walked right into their hands. What none of them realized was that Maya had surrendered deliberately, allowing herself to be discovered, sleeping on a bench outside the police station that morning. Her apparent defeat was the central element of her counterattack. Case number 52791, State versus Maya Johnson, the clerk announced. Charges of conspiracy against law enforcement, evidence tampering, identity fraud, and assaulting an officer. Maya's assigned public defender, a nervous young man, clearly intimidated by the high-profile case, shuffled his papers without meeting her eyes. "Your Honor, given the serious nature of these charges, we request a continuance to properly prepare a defense." "Request denied," Judge Hamilton responded immediately. "The state has indicated national security concerns that necessitate expedited proceedings." D.A. Monroe stood, immaculately dressed in a designer suit that contrasted sharply with Maya's ragged appearance. "Your Honor, given the defendant's previously demonstrated flight risk and the serious nature of her crimes against our justice system, the state requests immediate remand to maximum security pending trial." Throughout the proceedings, officers Wilson and Thompson stood nearby, openly mocking Maya's appearance, and occasionally making crude comments just loud enough for her to hear. "Look at her now," Wilson snickered. "Not so tough without her homeless army." "Probably hasn't bathed in months," Thompson added, wrinkling his nose theatrically. Judge Hamilton made a show of considering the case before him. "Does the defendant wish to make a statement before remand?" Maya raised her head slowly, appearing broken in spirit. "Your Honor, I've been falsely accused. These officers have systematically targeted black citizens, planted evidence, and used the justice system to cover their crimes." Her weak protest brought laughter from the officers present. Judge Hamilton smirked. "Serious allegations from someone with no evidence or credibility." "If I may, Your Honor," a new voice called from the back of the courtroom. Assistant Director Lawrence Taylor strode forward, FBI credentials displayed. "The Bureau has been investigating this individual for some time. She's a former agent who suffered a psychological break. Her delusions about police corruption stem from personal trauma. The courtroom murmured in surprise at this development. Maya appeared to collapse further into herself, shaking visibly. "We have medical records confirming her history of instability," Taylor continued, handing documents to the court clerk. "The FBI requests custody to ensure she receives appropriate psychiatric care." As the judge reviewed the fabricated documents, Maya caught the subtle nods between Taylor, Richardson, and Monroe. They believed they had won completely, neutralizing both her and her evidence in one masterstroke. "Your testimony is most helpful, Assistant Director," Judge Hamilton declared. "However, given the local nature of her crimes, the defendant will remain in Westridge custody." Maya allowed tears to flow down her face, creating the perfect image of a broken woman facing inevitable defeat. As the judge prepared to formalize her remand order, Maya's hand moved to her throat, touching the seemingly worthless pendant she'd worn throughout her undercover operation. With a subtle click, the pendant activated, not just a recording device, but a signal transmitter. Throughout the proceedings, Maya had been broadcasting everything to multiple secure receivers outside the courthouse. "Before you continue, Your Honor," Maya said, her voice suddenly clear and confident, "I'd like to reveal my true identity." The abrupt change in her demeanor caused the courtroom to fall silent. Maya stood straight, reaching into a hidden pocket in her tattered coat to withdraw her FBI badge. "Special Agent Maya Johnson, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Special Task. Force on Law Enforcement Corruption," she announced, her voice ringing through the silent courtroom. Officers Wilson and Thompson froze mid-laugh. Judge Hamilton's gavel remained suspended in air. D.A. Monroe half rose from her seat, face draining of color. "This entire proceeding," Maya continued, "has been recorded and transmitted live to FBI headquarters in Washington, to the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, and to the offices of 3 federal judges in neighboring districts." As she spoke, the courtroom doors opened. Federal agents entered, positioning themselves throughout the room. From the gallery, several spectators stood, revealing themselves as FBI agents who had been in place before the hearing began. Captain James Richardson, District Attorney Victoria Monroe, Judge Edward Hamilton, Officers Blake Wilson and Ryan Thompson, and FBI Assistant Director Lawrence Taylor, Maya announced formally. "You are all under arrest for conspiracy against rights, obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, extortion under color of official right, and violation of oath of office." Taylor lunged toward the side exit but found it blocked by 2 agents. "This is absurd. I'm the Assistant Director. She's the one under investigation." "Actually, sir," one of the agents replied, "Director Collins sends his regards. He was never placed on administrative leave. That was disinformation to flush out your operation." As federal agents moved to secure the accused, Maya addressed the shocked courtroom. "For 3 years, these individuals have operated a criminal enterprise disguised as law enforcement. They have systematically violated the civil rights of Westridge citizens, particularly targeting Black and Latino residents. They have planted evidence, falsified reports, coerced testimony, and used the justice system as a weapon against the innocent." Maya's voice strengthened as she continued. "When I arrived 6 months ago to investigate these abuses, I discovered corruption, extending beyond the local department into federal law enforcement. What you've witnessed today is the culmination of an operation authorized directly by the FBI Director and the Attorney General of the United States." Captain Richardson struggled against his handcuffs. "You can't prove any of this. It's her word against ours." Maya smiled slightly. "Actually, we have everything. The recording devices you confiscated when you arrested me the first time. Decoys. My real equipment transmitted continuously to secure servers. We have hundreds of hours of video and audio evidence, financial records from offshore accounts, testimony from dozens of victims, and as of 10 minutes ago, signed confessions from evidence technician Gregory Palmer and Judge William Cranston in exchange for leniency." The courtroom erupted in chaos as the implications became clear. Reporters who had been present for what they thought would be a routine hearing suddenly found themselves witnessing the largest police corruption bust in state history. Outside the courthouse, Maya learned that simultaneous raids were being conducted across Westridge County, at the police department, evidence lockup, DA's office, and the private residences of all suspects. The conspiracy that had seemed untouchable was collapsing like a house of cards. 3 months after the dramatic courtroom arrests, Maya Johnson stood before a different judge in a different courtroom. The federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. was packed with spectators, reporters, and families of those affected by the Westridge corruption case. The evidence presented by Special Agent Johnson and her team has exposed one of the most extensive networks of law enforcement corruption in our nation's history. U.S. Attorney General Rebecca Winters addressed the court. 17 officers, 3 judges, 4 prosecutors, including District Attorney Monroe, and 2 federal officials have been indicted on multiple charges. Maya, now restored to her proper appearance, tailored suit, hair neatly styled, bearing the confident posture of a decorated FBI agent, listened as the Attorney General detailed the full extent of what had been uncovered. The Westridge operation had extended beyond racial targeting to include a sophisticated money laundering scheme involving seized drug assets, systematic evidence tampering affecting over 200 cases, and a blackmail operation targeting local politicians and business owners. Due to Agent Johnson's extraordinary work, 53 wrongfully convicted individuals have already been released from prison, the Attorney General continued. The department has established a special review panel to examine every case handled by the indicted officials over the past 5 years. Following the hearing, Maya met with many of those who had helped her during her undercover operation. Dr. Letitia Williams had her medical license fully restored and was now heading a community health initiative with federal funding. Marcus Coleman received compensation for his injuries and was expanding his grocery store into a second location. Keisha, who had provided crucial help despite the risks, had been offered a position with the FBI's community outreach program. Andre Williams received a commendation for his years of meticulous record-keeping that had proven essential to building the case. Most meaningful for Maya was her visit to the federal prison where her brother Jamal was serving his sentence. With new evidence revealing the pattern of evidence planting by the same officers who had arrested him, his case had been prioritized for review. "The review board is meeting next week," Maya told him through the visitation room glass. "Your case has all the same markers as the ones we've already overturned. It's just a matter of time now." Jamal's eyes shone with unshed tears. "All these years I kept saying I was innocent, and nobody believed me." "I believed you," Maya replied, softly. "That's why I became an agent in the first place." Back in Washington, Maya faced her final challenge, testifying before a congressional committee on police reform. The packed hearing room fell silent as she approached the microphone. "What I witnessed in Westridge County was not simply a few corrupt individuals," she began. "It was a systemic failure of oversight, accountability, and equal protection under the law. When those entrusted with power abuse it, and those responsible for oversight become complicit, the entire foundation of justice crumbles." The committee members listened intently as Maya detailed specific recommendations. Independent prosecution units for police misconduct cases, civilian oversight with real authority, mandatory body cameras with penalties for deactivation, and federal funding tied to demonstrated compliance with civil rights provisions. "The officers I encountered didn't start their careers intending to become corrupt," Maya explained. "They worked within a system that gradually normalized misconduct, protected wrongdoers, and punished those who spoke up. We need structural changes that make doing the right thing easier than doing the wrong thing." As the hearing concluded, the committee chairperson asked Maya a final question. "Agent Johnson, after everything you experienced, do you still believe reform is possible?" Maya considered the question carefully. What happened in Westridge was a failure of individuals, but also of systems. Yet ultimately, it was individuals of courage and conviction who brought that corrupt system down. A homeless veteran who shared what he knew despite the risks, a doctor who stood by her principles, a courthouse janitor who documented patterns no one else noticed, and everyday citizens who refuse to accept injustice as normal. She leaned toward the microphone. So yes, I believe reform is possible. But only if we recognize that justice isn't merely a system of laws and procedures. It's a continuous commitment that belongs to all of us. And it requires our vigilance, our courage, and most importantly, our unwillingness to look away when that justice is denied to anyone. The final outcome exceeded even Maya's expectations. 6 months after her testimony, Congress passed the law, Enforcement Accountability and Community Trust Act, incorporating many of her recommendations. The FBI established a permanent Civil Rights Enforcement Division, with Maya appointed as its first deputy director. Captain Richardson, D.A. Monroe, and the other central figures in the Westridge conspiracy received sentences ranging from 15 years to life imprisonment. Assistant Director Taylor, who had attempted to bargain for leniency by revealing other corrupt networks, was sentenced to 20 years. But perhaps the most meaningful victory came on a rainy Tuesday morning when Maya stood waiting outside the gates of the Federal Correctional Facility. After 3 years of wrongful imprisonment, Jamal Johnson walked into freedom and his sister's waiting embrace. "It's really over?" he asked as they drove away from the prison. Maya nodded, watching the facility recede in the rearview mirror. "That chapter is, but the work continues." As they headed toward home, Maya reflected on the journey from her first night on Westridge streets to the nationwide reforms now beginning to take shape. What had started as one undercover assignment had evolved into a movement for accountability and justice that would affect communities across the country. The system wasn't perfect, and the work would never truly be finished. But for the first time in years, Maya felt genuine hope that change was possible, not just through laws and policies, but through the courage of individuals willing to stand against corruption, whatever the cost. This powerful story teaches us that justice requires more than systems and laws. It demands individual courage and unwavering conviction. When institutions meant to protect citizens become corrupted, it often falls to principled individuals willing to risk everything to restore justice. Maya's journey reveals how systemic racism and corruption can become normalized within law enforcement when left unchecked, creating parallel systems of justice that disproportionately harm minority communities. The story also highlights the danger of unchecked power, showing how corruption spreads from street-level officers to the highest levels of authority when oversight fails. Perhaps most importantly, it demonstrates that meaningful change comes not from a single heroic act, but from coalitions of ordinary people standing together against injustice. The homeless veteran, the wrongfully accused doctor, the minimum wage janitor, all proving that true power resides in collective action against oppression. Real justice requires both institutional reform and personal moral courage. Have you ever witnessed injustice and struggled with whether to speak up or stay silent? Maya's story shows the extraordinary impact one person can have when they refuse to look away from corruption. If this story moved you, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more powerful narratives about individuals fighting against systemic injustice. Comment below with your thoughts on what you would have done in Maya's position. Would you have risked everything to expose corruption, or would self-preservation have won out? Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that standing against wrongdoing matters, even when the odds seem overwhelming. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one woman's fight for justice. Remember, in a world where powerful systems can be weaponized against the vulnerable, your voice and your witness are more important than ever.